everybody. This is Jennifer Way, Intuitive Consultant. Thank you for joining me. Sorry. So today's video is going to be about worth, value, and objectification. So recently there was a commercial. It was a L'Oreal commercial, and Viola Davis was in it. And it had a message about being worth it. The message had a great reaction on Twitter, and I think it was a much needed message right now, especially at this time. But what occurred to me is like, why do we need to hear this so much? Why do we need to hear this so much? Why do so many people need to be told that they're worth it? And why do we need to be told that we have value? Because we live in a world that is so comfortable with and habituated by objectifying its humans. And for all the humans alive today, we internalize this, and that further exacerbates the issue. As our technology continues down the road of like AI everything, we need to take a long, hard look at why we're constantly objectifying others. So if we look at this, what are the obvious ways that we objectify others, right? The most obvious ways are this concept that humans can be bought and sold and stolen and used. But it can also be more subtle ways, like this idea, okay, we've all heard this before, it's just business, it's not personal. Or even the concept of swiping left. And we also take for granted this idea of how we treat our actors and models. And I know that you might have a reaction to this, but think about how we objectify them. We might elevate them, the entertainers in our society, but we objectify the shit out of them. They are not supposed to have thoughts or feelings. They're supposed to just play the part, or they're supposed to shut up and just have their photo taken. They're supposed to be objects. Our technology and its communicative features have become an excuse to mechanize or control our humanity. When we objectify people, we are reinforcing this idea that objects have no feelings so that we can do whatever we want with them. But why? Like, why do we want to abuse or take advantage of even objects? Where does this need come from? Usually this is to elevate a power that we have inside or a sense of self. And a lot of times this starts with abuse that happened in childhood. So let's talk about parents and children. This is one of the original ways that objectification came into play. We've only just started worrying or taking into consideration children's feelings. This is a very recent development, only in the last 40 or 50 years. Children used to simply be reflections of their parents. Children used to work. Children were objects that were assigned value according to how they served or how they did not serve their parents. This is an idea that actually comes from Teal Swan as well. We assign value to our kids based on whether or not they are behaving, whether or not they're giving us what we need, a quiet, peaceful environment. We manage or control children's behaviors. We train them. We manipulate them. We mold them. These are things you do to objects or to things that you don't consider human. So if you are not considering the feelings of an individual and you are trying to control them, you are objectifying them. Of course we end up doing this to one another. Of course this is how it happens. This is how and why we project instead of relating or connecting to other humans. Ultimately, this is why a sense of value or a sense of worth is such a big topic these days, because we live in a world that inherently objectifies humanity. We categorize people, all men are like this, or all women are like this. It's acceptable to collect data on human beings, conduct social experiments, to monitor behaviors and measure them for algorithms to track someone's desires or wants or needs solely for advertising purposes, solely for manipulative purposes. These are consumers. These are customers. These are employees. They're never just people. So if we are objectifying people, that must mean that we can't really connect to like tangible things, right? Like unfeeling objects. So in earlier days, we created tools. It was an extension of our human creativity, and we assigned value and meaning to them. In spirituality, we had talismans, we had statues, we had objects of meaning. And the reason these objects had meaning is because we focused our energy on them. And we actually delivered a very specific vibration. And this object, which was usually created out of a naturally occurring material, was able to receive and hold this vibration. This is why if you go to Egypt and you're visiting the pyramids or you're visiting these places that are just structures, these structures hold a very specific vibration because of the length of time and the kind of focus and the kind of ritual that human beings put into it. These objects hold vibration. This is where crystals come into play. This is why we work with crystals. Generally, in our modern world, objects are devoid of some kind of humanity, or at least this is what we tell ourselves. They're devoid of human connection or spiritual implication. It's implied that objects have no feelings. We can do whatever we want to them or with them. This is what we tell ourselves. Yet, we still understand that a child who has a doll or a stuffed animal or a small toy has an emotional connection to this object. We can understand that perhaps a piece of furniture or some kind of object that maybe one of our loved ones had and valued during their lives, once they've passed over, that object then becomes valuable to us. We can also feel this if you wear someone who's passed away, if you wear their jewelry, you know it makes you feel closer to them. So this is our paradox. We objectify humans, yet we can connect to objects. For some people, it feels better to separate the idea of an object. It feels better to like scream at Alexa or pound on your computer like if it doesn't work, because it doesn't feel anything. So of course, you can do whatever you want with it. And I know this is like the whole premise of Westworld on HBO, but this goes beyond robots. Like, look at how people felt when Notre Dame burned down. Of course people value objects, and they value objects over people. We separate ourselves from feelings. Back to that, it's not personal, it's business. It's just so ingrained in us to separate feelings. Think about even how we convert the relationship between an animal and a human. We convert it to pet and owner. So what do we do with all of this stuff? It's time to maybe understand that we all have feelings. We are all comprised of energy. We all have thoughts. We all have emotions. Maybe if we finally understood and really accepted this, we would stop objectifying other humans. We would stop permitting the devaluing of other humans. And of course, we would do this internally as well. We would reject anything that we could identify as being objectifying for us. And we can also observe ourselves in moments where we are objectifying ourselves. Maybe even if we restore humanity to sacred objects and understand that the reason an object has a frequency is because we've delivered it to that. We've imbued it with our own frequency. It is vibrating according to our intention, our thoughts, our feelings. Maybe if we accept that this universe is alive, that consciousness exists everywhere and is in everything, that energy flows where we focus, think, and act, and that this energy affects others, human or not. I mean, how are we going to relate to extraterrestrials if we can't even relate to one another? All right, aliens. All right. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful week. I'd love to hear some of your comments below. What do you think? Do you agree? Our obsession with objectification affects how we see ourselves, what we deem worthy and valuable. Let's be careful with that. And I will see you next week. Bye.